In this video, we're going to be talking about, well, if you want to become rich, should you start a side hustle? Maybe don't start a side hustle. We're going to assess the pros and cons and other potential ways that you can go. I have a short slide deck prepared, and this video is really trying to help people who are considering digital marketing and data analytics and discussing in those niches. Should you start a side hustle? Should you not? Let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to get started with this presentation here. So don't start a side hustle. Should you start a side hustle? First and foremost, if you're someone who's just constantly debating and never really doing anything and just constantly watching YouTube videos and you're kind of like a entrepreneur, then maybe that's a different issue you need to address first. Are you taking action or you're just always debating in your head, spending weeks debating? That's someone who's really not serious about like really getting started or just caught up in um like not shipping. And so you got to first be taking action somehow, and make movement. Then you're going to stop wasting time. But if you want to get rich, should you get into digital marketing and data analytics side hustles, or maybe is there another way? We're going to cover the different uh, big buckets of possibilities. The first is like a freelancer. So this is someone where, you know, you basically get different gigs from different clients, and then you solve that gig. So maybe they need help with Google Ads and they just need you to fix a certain campaign. It may take you 3 hours or 7 hours. And so there is certain pros and cons to this. First, there's the flexibility of it. You can choose which gigs to take, and then you have the freedom of time. Maybe you're busier a certain week because of holidays or family time, then you could take less gigs that week, and say, no, I can't take it. And then there's also, you know, the freedom to choose the work you want to do. Maybe this industry is a bit better than the other. So there's a bit more freedom to flex and uh, flex your time. In theory, there is some truth to that, but especially if you're starting out, you probably want to take any gig that comes your way or more gigs. Once you get established, yeah, then you can kind of get the ball rolling. But let's say you have a full-time job and then you're doing freelancing on the side, you're basically juggling two jobs at that point. And especially with freelancers starting out, when there's not as much going, it can be hard to say no to gigs when you're just trying to get your portfolio going, get more ratings and reviews. And it's also dependent on building that sales and marketing to generate those leads. So how do you do that? You need to have a game plan here. So oftentimes, like I mentioned, many people are just quibbling about should I get started? And it's all in their head. And they're just watching all these videos online about the theory of it, and they're not even getting started. But you need to have a blueprint, a game plan. You probably want to, you know, find some freelancers that's doing really well and follow their blueprint or game plan, or maybe they even have a course. And then you can go through their steps to succeed in a faster, more efficient way rather than just guessing where to get your leads and your clients. I know that I actually interviewed one freelancer called Alex Fasulo. She sometimes goes by Alexandra Fasulo. And she was a very successful freelancer. I interviewed her on my podcast. I have a personal development podcast called Will's Personal Development Show. And at her peak, she made $300,000 a year freelancing off like freelance platforms like Fiverr and Upwork and so forth. So that's one way to do it. But also, she was a rare example where that's why she was so famous and that's why she got on so many podcasts. Most freelancers don't make that much money. She found a very specific niche that may be more saturated now, but at the time she was a someone who wrote SEO optimized blog posts for these different companies who wanted to rank better on search engines. through digital marketing, and she was really a really good writer, and she knew SEO, and she had established a really strong presence with hundreds, if not thousands, of ratings and reviews on her profiles. So that's how she did it. But like I said, you need to follow a specific blueprint. You can't just be like, oh, I don't know what I'll do. I'll just guess. I'll go on Fiverr. And maybe Fiverr is no longer the optimal platform. So just keep that in mind. And then another con, as mentioned, is the salary capped freelancing. I really don't know any millionaire freelancers other than Alex Fasulo. She's like a freak example. Is it possible? For sure. I think you can make a ton of money freelancing. There's a lot of very successful, rich freelancers, but typically, especially when you're starting out, it's more or less another way of just getting paid, and you're not going to be expected to make a ton of money, but it can be a way to build your portfolio. It is a side hustle of sorts, but when you're starting out, don't expect to be, killing it out of the game. It's still bound to your time and effort, at least in the digital marketing and data analytics space. You can't automate or just automate the whole process. So your money is still bound to your the time. So you're just trading your life force in a way, your lifespan for uh money. So those are the pros and cons. There is kind of a cap to the income made, but there is more flexibility. You can certainly squeeze it in on top of your main job. So um, just something to think about. And always remember, you have to solve someone's problem. Many people start with passions like, oh, I like doing this, I like doing that. But another key factor is, will someone pay money for you to do this? And that usually only happens if they have a really strong problem that they can't solve easily themselves. So it's sometimes good to start with, what are some problems I can solve? And in digital marketing and data analytics, that could be everything from SEO to managing ads to writing copy to convert on landing pages or emails to in data analytics, connect all the data infrastructure platforms together and visualize a report or fix some broken analytics tracking. So there's a lot of ways you can go with it. Um, and on in some ways it can be a lot of work. You can Sometimes people don't want to rely on these freelancing job platforms, and that's where they may create YouTube videos or social media content to get more traffic and attention to maybe stumble across a new client on LinkedIn or social or Instagram or just YouTube. So it really is more work than you might think, but there is a lot of flexibility and it is a very common side hustle route in the digital marketing and data analytics sphere. Okay, what else can you do? Well, the other really big one in this industry is build your own business. And I think this is probably the one that can lead to the most scalability, the most automation, and potentially the most money if you want to get rich. A very common route I've seen in my 8+ years in the digital marketing industry is starting your own agency. It could be a social media marketing agency or just a digital marketing agency, where they're managing Google ads for you or Facebook ads, or they're doing SEO for you to help you rank better on search engines. There's been a lot of business owners who have made a lot of money, multi-millions from this, but it's a lot of upfront work and there's a lot of failed attempts to build businesses like this. So typically, um, you they typically start with a base of knowledge and skills, usually as a freelancer or as a full-time employee, and that's where they get the skills and experience to learn what they need to do. And then they essentially start hiring grunt workers or cheaper labor so that they can outsource their own time. So then they're not essentially managing or doing trading their dollars for hours, or at least their own time. They're hiring people below them to do the work, and then they're getting the sales and leads. So it's a lot of upfront work because now you have to deal with HR, you have to deal with taxes, you have to deal with all these new departments that form when you're managing your own business, things you don't have to worry about, cash flow issues, having bank accounts, um, all this stuff, but it's more scalable and your time is no longer limited by you. Instead of making $40,000 a year, all of a sudden, uh, you know, you can scale it to make hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions per year based off the profit margins of the business. And I've seen this done. There's a reason why there's thousands upon thousands of digital marketing agencies in this country. It's because it works. Um, Now, what are the cons to this? Well, as I mentioned, in a saturated market, there's a lot of competition, a lot of very established, polished agencies who have been doing this for a long time. They have templates, they have cookie cutter training documents for their staff. And because of all this, they have this advantage on you where they have the experience and skills to really deliver and testimonials to deliver. So there's a lot of competition. And, I would say in my experience in like a certain market, like let's say like a small to mid-sized suburb city or town, usually there will be maybe only like one to four, maybe five agencies that survive. And the market really doesn't seem to allow for anything more than that. And I don't know if it's because of the work or the obstacles, but usually you don't see many new agencies pop up. I think a lot of people just prefer being employees. They don't want to take the risk of starting their own business and all that work involved. So at least in this industry, you know, you may see one or two agencies pop up a year that are new, but it's kind of tough and there's competition there. And, you know, it's not like there's 1,000 agencies in your small town. So, you know, take that for what it's worth. There's just a kind of cap to it for whatever reason. And so it's just something to consider. It's one method you can use. But even then, another con is that it's not like it's completely hands off. Um, everyone, almost everyone I've known who runs or manages an agency, and I know quite a few, they're usually heavily still involved in the company. So it's not like they're hands off. So if you're looking for a automated hands-off I'm rich method, it's not it. These people are working full-time jobs, sometimes more than that, because they're managers, CEOs, um, founders of these companies, and they're still running the show, they're managing, they're hiring, they're taking sales calls, they're doing all this stuff, meeting with their subordinates. So it's still a lot of work, but if your goal is to make a lot of money and you're willing to put in the work, it could be a way of doing it. And certainly it's something that you can start to build on the side if you really want to while working a full-time job. You can spend a few hours a week, kind of like freelancing, to build that side hustle. And then from there, perhaps as it grows, as you get more clients, then you can scale it up or quit your full-time job. But it's just so much work and you have to generate your own leads and sales. So it might be a lot of cold calling, cold emails, a lot of that stuff to really get the ball rolling, and then great sales or testimonials to prove yourself. It's a lot. And then this is the path I took. Actually, before I get to that, I do want to mention there's other businesses that you can build that could lead to success in digital marketing. You don't have to start an agency in digital analytics or digital marketing. You can start a consultancy. Maybe it's a group of consultants where you're not paid to build stuff, but you're paid to kind of just hop on a Zoom call and coach people or, talk them through stuff. So, there's different ways of skinning the cat. I don't see as many of those. I see them in the conversion rate optimization space. Um, you can also apply your digital marketing skills that you've learned, your data analytics skills to maybe not necessarily be an agency, but essentially kind of um, build your own niche in a niche of your choice. So travel would be a great example I see often where um, these travel influencers travel around the world, live in exotic hotels, and I've never done it myself, but from what they they explain in their stories, and they essentially use their digital marketing skills to build their personal brand to a large following on Instagram or YouTube. And then they pitch these hotels to do collaborations, like a 7 day stay at this luxury hotel. And in exchange, we will post all this amazing video content of the hotel to kind of spread word about it. Or especially the real established ones, instead of getting paid with hotel stays, they get paid with actual dollar amounts, $10,000, $5,000, $2,000, $50,000 to promote some type of travel content or travel resource, or usually a hotel or a tour agency or something like that. So that's another way of doing it. Whereas rather than building an agency where you are servicing other businesses and helping them, you are servicing yourself and building your own personal brand in a niche, and then using the attention you've attained from a large following to get sponsorships and basically sell uh, advertising. Another path is, if you like, let's say you like, there's no way I can easily build a following of 500,000. I don't know if I can do that. That seems really tough as well. Another business that you can build that's kind of like solo, or you know, lifestyle, or a way to generate a lot of money that's still a business, is um, you essentially sell yourself as a service. So you're still trading your time for money, which is not ideal compared to, like, owning equity in a business that you're hands off. However, it doesn't require a large following. I've seen a lot of videographers, photographers do this, and do this while having like only 2,000 followers or less, is essentially they have built up the really good portfolio page, and they're not trying to gain millions of followers. They just want the right people following them, or the right people to notice. So they'll do a ton of cold DMs, cold emails, and their Instagram or their social media is on point. It may not have a lot of followers, but when the hotel or marketing manager sees your content, they're like, this guy really knows how to make incredible travel videos. And they just get paid to do videography, or create a compelling video for their uh, for this brand. So that's another way of doing it. And now let's get to the entry level job way. This is the way I did it. So this is more attainable because obviously it's easier to get a entry level job. You apply, you interview, you get hired. You can go to job listings, you could go to websites, you can network. And then the benefit of it is you get to learn during the job on the spot. For example, when I got my first entry level job in a digital marketing agency, they taught me a ton of stuff on the job. They have processes to train their employees to do things right. So I learned a lot about pay-per-click, SEO, social media, doing the job itself, and I get all this experience. And that really up levels you in terms of a job candidate for future, more senior jobs, as well as if you wanted to transition into one of these side hustles. You also now have a cash flow of salary and income, which you can also, if you wanted to, funnel that in to your side hustle, your side freelancing job, or business job. The cons, you do have that income cap. It's not going to scale to the moon or scale infinitely like a business can. You are paid X amount of dollars per year. It's great for people with no knowledge or skills to get started. And that's the path I took to eventually up level and get to those senior level marketing analyst jobs that I now have, and that I teach people on how to get. So it's a great starting point. It's a great stepping stone point. And through this, that's how a lot of agency owners started. They first got their entry level job. They worked for an agency themselves for 1, 2, 3, sometimes 4 years, but it's usually like 2 or 3. And then through that, they leverage their skills into starting their own agency or their own company or whatnot. So a great stepping stone pathway. So which one should you do then? Should you start with one and then the other? Well, I would say in the digital marketing and analytics space, I think the best path is definitely to start for working for a digital agency because you build that base, especially if you're coming out of school with no knowledge or experience. Even if you have a marketing degree, it's not really the same thing because a lot of that's theoretical and um, you're really starting from scratch in a way until you actually get your hands dirty with real digital marketing clients. So that way you build all these skills and experience and portfolio so that when you were to start freelancing or something else, you can actually have credibility that people will be interested in and get the ball rolling faster. Another issue with freelancing, as I've seen, is people have something good flowing and then all of a sudden the work dries up, the demand dries up. I've seen this. There's a former coworker I know who had this issue, and then all of a sudden they're posting and begging for gigs on LinkedIn, and then eventually, after many months, they're back to having a full-time job. So if you don't have a solid blueprint or plan on getting leads and generating leads, or you don't have that strong credibility or a strong sense of identifying business problems and a demand and solving them, a salary job is a great starting point, at least. You don't have to stay there forever, but it is a great starting off point. So side hustles, yeah, for sure. If you really want to make a ton of money and get rich and not have to wait until you're 70 years old from your 401k compound interest to get rich, then you need to jump eventually from a salary job to a way of generating a lot more ROI. And I threw out some of the most common businesses and paths to do that. So um, there's pros and cons to it. I definitely think it's hard to say, but you definitely want to build something that's more scalable if you really want to get that ROI faster. So if you want more tips like this, subscribe. You'll get more tips on getting into digital marketing and tips on becoming a marketing analyst. And join my free email newsletter down below to get freebies like free coaching calls, where I literally give free coaching calls helping people get to their dream job, level up their income, and level up their life. Thanks for watching.